Currently, the youngest category at the Academy Awards. Well, soon to be second youngest. The Best Animated Feature Award is one of my favourites at the Oscars, so I'm going to rank all the winners of this category, from Shrek to Flow.
But wait, I went one step further. I also watched every single film nominated to truly determine if the Academy got it right.
Happy Feet.
This film is a mess. It doesn't know what it wants to be, starting off as a film about someone who doesn't fit in, to a romance, to a jukebox musical, and then ends on this really hashed-in environmental message. It's just all over the place, and sometimes doesn't make any sense. I really like how this seal here references ketchup.
I take you with ketchup.
You know, a human invention, but they don't even know what humans are, calling them aliens. Did the seals invent ketchup here? Do they put it on their food? I also like how seeing penguins dance is what makes the humans take climate change seriously, because yes, that is all it took. An Inconvenient Truth also came out this same year, and even won 2 Oscars at the same ceremony, so I am wondering if that film might have helped it win, considering its tacked-on environmental message. Here are the other nominees. Both films were much better, but I would have given it to Monster House. Of all those creepy motion capture films that came out in the 2000s, this was the only one I thought was actually any good. It's very original, can be very funny, and the 3 main characters have great chemistry together. Because it's motion capture, it does have an uncanny feel to it since all the characters move so stiffly, but it adds to the charm of the film. A rule change happened in 2010 barring motion capture films from getting nominated, so this makes Happy Feet and Monster House the only films of their kind to get nominated. Cars is good. It's a sort of typical fish, or should I say, car out of water story. It's predictable and cliched, but it's enjoyable. Just don't think too hard about how the universe of Cars works, because it just poses endless questions. Cars also got an individual nomination for Original Song, something you are going to hear quite a bit during this video. Here is how I rank them.
Toy Story 4.
I really hate this film.
Objectively, Happy Feet is a worse film, so it deserves the bottom, but Toy Story 4 took the perfect ending that 3 had and just completely desecrated all over it. It's a pointless epilogue that shouldn't have been made, but we all know why it was made.
Money!
This film is Woody's story. It is no longer a toy story, just Woody, because all the other characters play supporting roles, or have really nothing to do. The other 3 films really felt like an ensemble. Here, Buzz barely gets anything to do. Jessie what? I kept forgetting she was in this film, with how little screen time she has, and the other toys get sidelined. It is cool seeing what happened to Bo Peep, but it's not really needed. The antagonist in this film is Gabby Gabby. I hate her. Fuck this character. The film doesn't want you to see her as an antagonist. The film wants you to see her as this tragic figure. But I'm sorry, she wants to forcibly steal Woody's voice box. And while, yes, he does give it to her in the end, she manipulates him in order to do that. And all I could think is this is pretty much organ harvesting. That's really fucked up. She gets a happy ending in the end, but she does not deserve this. She's cruel, manipulative, and doesn't get called out for this. The film wants you to root for her in a way, but she's not a nice toy worth rooting for. I do think as well it's out of character for Woody to just abandon Bonnie like that, when he made a point of always sticking with Andy. Terrible film. One of Pixar's worst, and one win on this list that really pisses me off. The film also got an additional nomination for Original Song. Here are the other nominees, all far better, and I would have given it to I Lost My Body. This film really moved me, despite its quite absurd concept. There are scenes of such poetic beauty that really made me tear up, such as the very ending shot and moments with the hand.
I don't want to spoil it, because I was really surprised. and I want you to be surprised too.
He really should have asked her though when he was talking to her on the intercom, then he wouldn't have needed to lie the whole time. I understand though why he did it. Really great music score too. Klaus is great. Really enjoyed this retelling of Santa's origins, and the film goes in quite surprising directions. I can already see it being considered a Christmas classic. How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, the final film in the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, is a fine conclusion to the series. It's really the ending to the film that elevates it, since it really felt perfect for these characters. I loved seeing Hiccup grow throughout this trilogy, and here he is at his most mature. Snot lusting over Hiccup's mum was weird though, and the villain is quite weak. It's honestly the weakest film in this trilogy, but it's still good. Missing Link is Laika's weakest film. It's just so generic and cliched compared to what they have made before. The studio that pushes the boundaries of what can be shown in a family film is reduced to just something so safe. It's a disappointing, mediocre film, but I will give it points for making me laugh out loud a few times.
The people we don't want here are leaving! Force them to stay!
Here is how I rank them.
Brave.
I don't outright despise this film like many people do. I find it fine, if a bit mediocre.
I like how, at its core, it's a film about a mother-daughter relationship and just how dysfunctional it can be. Even though Merida doesn't really get punished for accidentally turning her mother into a bear, which I think is a bad way of handling it because everything that happens in the film is her fault. It's enjoyable though for what it is. Not much else to say, it's mediocre and a bit forgettable. Here are the other nominees. Wreck-It Ralph should have won. It has a great message, has a really unexpected twist villain that I didn't see coming. Disney has taken a lot of flack for the twist villains over the years, and yeah, we will get to the others, but Wreck-It Ralph's really stands out as among their best. I love how imaginative the games are Ralph explores, and all the jokes related to video games are very funny. Same with the cameos. Ralph is awesome. Frankenweenie really surprised me. I enjoyed this as Tim Burton's tribute to 1950s horror films, and the story went in some surprising directions. The film has a lot of heart to it, and it did get me teary-eyed towards the end. Really solid film, and coincidentally this wasn't the only film nominated as a tribute to 1950s horror films, with Paranorman also getting nominated, a film I didn't like that much. I found the film too mean-spirited for my tastes. Norman is right. The whole film he is right, and he's treated like shit. Even when it's proven he is right and the zombies come to town, everyone still treats him like shit and even starts blaming him for it. Norman is also so nonchalant about it and doesn't give much of a reaction to it. Yes, the family come around to him in the end, but sorry, too little, too late. I give Laika props though for really pushing the boundaries of some of these jokes. They caught me off guard and gave me a laugh.
Where?
You mean like the F word?
Finally is The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists.
Oh, sorry. Pirates, Band of Misfits, for those outside of the UK. Arg.
Really forgettable film. Can be funny at times, but I didn't think much of it as a whole. I did like Hugh Grant in the lead role. Didn't know he had a knack for voice acting. Here's how I rank them.
Big Hero 6!
Fun, yet quite a forgettable film. I do like the setting of this sort of hybrid between San Francisco and Tokyo, so the city has American and Japanese aesthetics, as do the characters. Weak villain though, who is a twist villain, and it's pretty underwhelming, the reveal. He has understandable motivation though. Hiro Hamada is a likable lead. He's going through grief and trying to overcome it. His inventions are cool as well. Baymax is cool. I like Baymax and I want to give him a hug.
Yeah, not much to say about this film. It's fine for what it is.
Here are the nominees. I'll give it to the film that moved me the most, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. It took me a few watches to really get this film, but it is very devastating. Kaguya never got a chance to make any choices for herself, and while her dad is doing what he thinks will make her happy, happiness was right where they were. Her journey is one of sorrow, grief, but also such joy. Beautiful animation style too. It's one of the best looking films ever nominated. Isao Takahata's finest achievement as a director, up there with Studio Ghibli's best films. Speaking of Ghibli, Song of the Sea feels like a Ghibli film, only it's set in Ireland and is part of Tom Moore's Irish folklore trilogy, being the second film in the trilogy. The film is really about Ben learning to accept his sister, since he blames her for his mum leaving. On their journey, they meet various creatures from Irish folklore. To be honest, the narrative is a bit of a mess, particularly if you are not familiar with these creatures, and the reason the mum left is not explained, you just sort of accept it at the end. I wanted to like the film more than I ended up doing, but it's a fine film, just leaves me desiring more from it. The box trolls dares ask the question if the trolls who live under the city aren't so bad after all. It's a pretty generic story about misconceptions and how propaganda can influence the populace, but what single-handedly makes this film memorable is the villain. My god, this is one of the funniest villains in any animated film I have seen. His motivation for catching all the box trolls is ridiculous yet hilarious, wanting to join this elite white hat cheese-eating group, despite being allergic to cheese. He even makes his henchmen roleplay what it would be like. Hilarious. Ben Kingsley voices him, giving such funny deliveries with his lines. A well-deserved win at the Annies for voice acting.
Honestly, did you just see it for Ben Kingsley? He should do more voice roles.
How to Train Your Dragon 2 is just as great as the first one, building on the foundation of the world set before it and delivering a very satisfying chapter in the trilogy. Some moments really hit hard, and it does speak to Hiccup's maturity that he never blames Toothless for what happened. Great sequel. Here is how I rank them.
Zootopia!
I like the creativity of the world building, how the film treats prejudice with such nuance, showing how it's in everyone, and the friendship between Judy and Nick. I like how determined Judy is to become a police officer, so why is it this low? Because of everything else. The main plot I find to be underwhelming. The mystery about why predators are turning this way and the reveal about who actually is doing it is just very This world has so much potential, but the story around it was disappointing. It's still a good film. I love how it handles prejudice, but I can't help but feel it could have been a lot better. Here are the nominees, and boy, this is one of the strongest set of nominees this category has ever seen, which just makes it more annoying how they gave it to the weakest nominee. It was honestly hard to pick, but in the end, I went with the film that moved me the most. My Life as a Courgette. Underneath the surface, this is such a dark film. I love how it's all implied through dialogue and the characters' reactions, with some glimpses of the darkness hidden underneath. These are such broken and abused characters, but there is still so much joy in their lives, despite what they have been through. The ending is perfect. It's so moving. Really, the whole film is. I have nothing but praise for this film, from the emotions, the characters, to just how funny it can be as well. And it accomplished all this in just 65 minutes, one of the shortest films ever nominated in this category.
But wait, we still have 3 more masterpieces to talk about.
Moana is Disney's best film of the decade. The songs are amazing, so much so that it's the only film I bought the soundtrack for on CD. Moana herself is such a great character. Headstrong, independent, but very caring and active. Her relationship with Maui,
who's awesome,
is a highlight of the film. Their reluctant dynamic together, which ends in respect. Love this film, and it also received an additional nomination for Original Song. And Moana 2? Yeah, let's not talk about it. We also have Laika's best film, with Kubo and the Two Strings, one of the most visually stunning animated films I've ever seen, with a storyline and characters to match its grand scale. The film can get dark, and boy, are Kubo's aunts creepy. I find the ending very satisfying. Kubo's pacifist way of ultimately forgiving his granddad for all he has done is very in character and bittersweet. Kubo also got an additional nomination for visual effects, only the second animated film to ever achieve this after The Nightmare Before Christmas. Lastly is The Red Turtle, and while it takes a while for it to get going, The film moved me to tears. I just can't get that ending out of my head. It's so heartbreaking yet beautifully poetic. There is no dialogue in the film, which going forward you will notice how the Academy love nominating films with little to no dialogue, so it's easily accessible. Stunning set pieces and animation also just bring it over the top, but it's the emotion in the film that really stands out. Watch it, and you'll see what I mean. Hell, just watch all 4 of these films, really. This is one of the years where all the films are worth watching. Here is how I rank them.
Of all the winners in this category, Rango is one of the oddest films to win.
It's not pretty to look at and has some very off-color humor, but it's okay. Gore Verbinski just made his own version of an acid western in the style of Alejandro Jodorowsky and Sergio Leone. The character designs on everyone are awesome. You can see every scar and rugged feature of them. Each character design tells a story in itself. The rattlesnake is really awesome too. The only thing is that the story isn't very interesting. Just a stranger comes to town and shakes up the establishment and lies about who he is, so you're just spending the whole film waiting for this lie to be revealed and the town turn on him, but oh, he comes back and they love him again. It's very predictable. Rango as a character is great though. He is fun to watch. I do like how the film is set in modern times, but the creatures here haven't developed with those times. Interesting idea and concept, but I wish the film did more with the cliches of the genre instead of sticking with them. Are the other nominees. A very varied list with some very inspired choices. And easily Kung Fu Panda 2 I would give it to. I believe it to be a stronger film than the first one, and the most emotional one as well. This film just had a lot of heart to it, and man, that peacock is sure intimidating. Never thought I would say that before, but man, great villain. The other 3 films I really don't think much of. A Cat in Paris, which at 62 minutes long is the shortest film ever nominated, is fine, easy watch, though it was weird how the burglar and the detective ended up together at the end. Puss in Boots is pretty forgettable, just a spin-off they didn't do too much with. Humpty Dumpty is my sleep paralysis demon. He just looks so wrong, like a human face on an egg. Just look at him, staring into your soul as if he's gonna suck it all up and welcome you into the darkness. I did like the idea of Jack and Jill being like a crime couple. That's cool, but with how subversive the Shrek films have been, this one just sticks to a by-the-numbers predictable story. It's very meh. Now, Chico and Rita, I find so frustrating. I really dislike films where the storyline is moved forward due to misunderstandings between 2 characters. These 2 should have just sat down and had an honest conversation with each other, then none of this would have happened. And oh, it's supposed to be so sweet at the end because she waited 40 years for him in the hotel they were meant to get married at. I'm just thinking, man, you 2 really wasted your lives apart like this. It's not sweet. It's annoying. Here's how I rank them.
Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
The first feature film to star iconic British duo Wallace and Gromit is very good. Has lots of hilarious jokes that really made me laugh out loud. I'd imagine lots of these would go over kids' heads. The voice acting from everyone is really spectacular, particularly Gromit. He's great. This actually became the only film nominated at the Annies to take up the whole best voice acting category. I really like the satirical take on werewolf horror tropes, and how when the vegetables are eating it's treated like a murder. The romance with Lady Tottington I'm not a fan of. It's pretty underdeveloped, but everything else in the film is good. It doesn't move me, but the film is really funny and fun. Here are the other nominees. This is the only year where not a single 3D animated film got nominated, so regardless of which film won, history would have been made. Corpse Bride is fine. It's short, forgettable songs though. Emily is really likable considering what she does in the film, and Victor is a dick. I don't like him. Tim Burton sure has a thing for bringing dogs back to life. I prefer Frankenweenie though. It's a fine watch for what it is. Howl's Moving Castle I am not a fan of. I find the film to be a confusing mess. Lots of events in the film you just accept. There is no explanation, like how Sophie gets old and then young, what the black door is Hal keeps going into, that there is a random war more going on in the story, and it's never explained why or who it is. The last act especially is just utter nonsensical randomness. Hey, you remember that random scarecrow that keeps showing up in the film? Well, he is a prince! It comes out of nowhere! I can appreciate the animation. The sequences can be very stunning, but it's Hayao Miyazaki's worst film in my opinion. The film is never boring though, I will give it that.
A very weak year. Wallace and Gromit deserved it.
Here is how I rank them.
Encanto!
I like how it handles generational trauma, and Lin-Manuel Miranda returns from Moana to write the songs, which is one of the strongest aspects of the film. The songs are very memorable, some more than others, but they really provide key insights into the characters and are great spectacles all on themselves. The cast is really big though, resulting in many of the family members like Mirabelle's parents and her cousins getting hardly anything to do. Mirabelle is one of Disney's best protagonists. I love how she does go out of her way to help the family, is very active in the film, and despite not having powers is very empathetic and understanding of everyone. Her aunt's power of her emotions affecting the weather seems more like a curse than a gift though. I also think Mirabelle forgives her grandma too easily. This woman has made Mirabelle feel like a second-class citizen her whole life and just won't listen to her. Fuck her for putting her through this so much emotional distress. Really great emotional ending. I love how the family finally sees Mirabelle for who she is. The film also gained 2 additional nominations for Original Song and Original Score. Here are the other nominees. I would have given it to The Mitchells vs. the Machines. With a title like that, I wasn't expecting to be really moved by the film, but I was. It's really a film about a father and daughter relationship, with the father learning to understand his daughter, while machines try to take over the world and kidnap everyone. The effort put into the animation is really outstanding. They add lots of little animated details like 2D animation at some points that they didn't really need to, but it adds to the style of the film. Really great film. Flea was a close second for me. I was also really moved. The only animated documentary currently to get nominated. It was really uplifting and inspirational seeing him going from fleeing Afghanistan to landing in Denmark. All the help and illegal things he had to do to get there. Seeing him as well learning to accept his sexuality, and in the most moving scene in the film, his family accept it too. Flea was also additionally nominated for International Film and Documentary Feature. I wish it would have won at least one of them. Luca is such a charming film, one of Pixar's best in my opinion. They made a small-scale Ghibli-like film, and it's a delight to watch. Seeing Luca and Alberto's friendship grow throughout the film is very sweet to watch. Even though I really hate Luca's betrayal scene, I'm glad they make up. The two of them just want a Vespa! Get them a Vespa already! Then we have Raya and the Last Airbender, where Raya finds a boy in an iceberg and goes on an adventure with him to defeat the dreaded Fire Nation. Sorry, wrong film. Raya and the Last Dragon, I mean. I just kept thinking about The Last Airbender throughout this film because, man, some things are similar to it. I don't like this film. Positively, the world building is cool. Though at 107 minutes long, there's a lot of it that is rushed. It feels like it would be serviced better as a TV show. The film's message as well is really badly handled. It's saying that Raya should trust people more, and annoying Aquafina Dragon is here to help her with that, even though Namari has given her no reason to trust her. She keeps betraying her, kills annoying Aquafina Dragon, and the whole world being this way is her fault. Then she dares say that it's Raya's fault for not being trusting of others?
You're as much to blame for Sisu's death as I am.
Ah, shut the fuck up. Raya is right not to trust you. And yes, annoying Aquafina Dragon is annoying throughout the whole film, so this film just annoys me as well. Here is how I rank them.
Frozen!
I like Frozen. I thought it was one of Disney's better films to come out in the 2010s, not only for its subversive take on the Disney princess formula, but the really strong songs. Apart from Fixer Upper, I don't like that sequence. Elsa is a really great and complex character. The Let It Go sequence is up there with some of Disney's all-time best. Olaf is annoying though. I'm not a fan of Disney throwing in these comedic side characters. That's why I love Hey Hey in Moana, because he's silent. I saw the film when it first came out, before it became the huge cultural phenomenon that you couldn't escape, and honestly, I was getting sick of not being able to escape Frozen, because man, it was everywhere, and that overexposure is sort of why it's lower on this list. It's not the film's fault, but I can't ignore it. And then Frozen 2! Let's not talk about it. Frozen also won an additional Oscar for Original Song. Here are the other nominees. While I do think Frozen is a deserved winner from this selection, The Wind Rises would have been my choice. A film about obsession and dreams, something that Studio Ghibli seemed to always be about. Hayao Miyazaki's most grounded film, seeing as it's an historical drama biopic. There are sequences of such beauty in this film that took my breath away. The animation is really dynamic in these sequences. While the film is really slow-paced, the film's character-based drama is what keeps the film engaging. I love the sequences where Gyro is talking to Caperoni. They offer great insights into Gyro's feelings about the war and how his inventions are used for war.
Really good film. Unlike anything Miyazaki has made, you could tell it was a passion project.
Trudes, it's fun. Nicolas Cage voicing a caveman doing grunts and caveman noises. Come on, what's not to like? Really exciting sequences in the film. I like it. With how successful Illumination Studios have been, Despicable Me 2 still remains the only film they have made to get nominated. Now, I like the first Despicable Me film, but starting with the second one, the Minions got way too much screen time and the films just started including lots of wacky Minion hijinks that didn't add anything to the movies. It's why I like the first one, because they are used sparingly. Here, we also have evil Minions to add to the annoyance. So really, this is the one that made me not a fan of these films. Additionally, Despicable Me 2 also got a nomination for Original Song. Ernest and Celestine dares ask the question, can a mouse and bear be friends? This film is so wholesome. Sickeningly wholesome, even. It's just so sweet. Come on, let the mouse and bear be friends. Why you gotta put them on trial? I also love how the art style is similar to a children's storybook, because it really does feel like I'm watching one. Good, sweet film. Very easy to watch, and not long either. Here is how I rank them.
Flow.
This is a beautiful film. It has some really stunning visuals in it. However, the more I watched Flow, the more I found it underwhelming. I really want to like this film. It's told of no dialogue, which after the many films with no dialogue the Academy have nominated, we finally have a winner. What lacks in this for me is emotion. The animals in this film are portrayed as animals. The dog is overly excited and tries to catch the ball. The cat has a scene where it chases the light, and the lemur likes objects and stuff. It's hard to go on this journey with them when they just seem so indifferent to each other. When the cat sees the lemur again, you're expecting an emotional reunion, but it's just indifference. And it's that emotional disconnect from our main characters that made me pull away from this film. The few moments of fantasy also really take me out, like when the bird transcends, whatever that was, or when the cat is trying to swim back and all of a sudden the world just comes back. It's like the writers wrote themselves into a corner and didn't know how to get him out of this situation. The music is great, and as I said, there are some really stunning sequences. It's a very inspired win from the Academy, but for me, I wish it was a better film. Also joining Flea and getting an additional nomination for International Film. Here are the other nominees. I don't mind that Flow won, because it is good for international animation, but my pick is Memoir of a Snail. Adam Elliott's follow-up to his film Mary and Max, which has gained a very significant cult following. Memoir of a Snail can be very hard to watch, but I found the film so moving. Life just keeps bringing Grace down. She is constantly shitted on, and life is just hard for her, which makes those moments of hope just more impactful. I was deeply moved by the ending of the film as well. This is only the second R-rated film as well to get nominated. The Wild Robot also moved me. It's a really beautiful film about belonging and motherhood. Roz is such a great character, and Lupita Nyong'o's voice performance is really spectacular. Strange, we have two films nominated about a flooded post-apocalyptic Earth, and this is the better of the two of them. Seeing the animals protect Roz at the end, really saying she is home, and then going away to protect them, man, really hit me. DreamWorks miss a lot, but when they hit, really hit. Also nominated for original score and sound, which makes this DreamWorks' most nominated animated film at the Oscars. Inside Out 2 is one of Pixar's best sequels. Inside Out as a concept just lends itself really naturally to a sequel, since in the first film it did end with the puberty alarm, so this is the natural progression of that. The film introduces more concepts in the mind, more emotions, with anxiety being a really great addition, making it very relatable. I also really got engaged in Riley's story more so than the first one. She feels more like a well-rounded character. The film doesn't hit me as much as the first one does emotionally, but the film is still very moving. I'd say it's nearly as good as the first one. Very briefly, Inside Out also became the highest-grossing animated film of all time, before being overtaken by Ninja 2. Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. While not as good as Were-Rabbit, is a fun adventure. It's great to see Feathers McGraw back, who is a very sinister villain without saying anything. The film isn't as funny as Were-Rabbit. I thought it doesn't feel as cinematic either, but then they did have DreamWorks funding Were-Rabbit, but that relationship deteriorated according to Nick Park, since they kept wanting them to make it more Americanized. This film does also feature one of the most forced title name drops I have ever seen in a film.
That's vengeance. Most foul. He said it! He said it!
I must say, this film did make me question the continuity of Wallace and Gromit.
So, it is a sequel to The Wrong Trousers, but there are characters from Were-Rabbit in the film too. Well, what happened to Lady Tottington? She was a love interest of Wallace. Same with that lady from A Close Shave. Wallace gets love interests, but what happened to them? Maybe Gromit had something to do with it. I also always saw the Shaun the Sheep films as their own separate thing, but the farmer makes an appearance in this film, so they exist in the same universe as Wallace and Gromit. Everyone in Wallace and Gromit speaks English, but in Shaun the Sheep, they use a gibberish language.
So, does this mean that there is a subsect of people in the Wallace and Gromit universe that only speak gibberish?
I mean, they have their own city, and the signs in the city are in English, so I guess they can read it, but not speak it. Maybe Wallace's town is the only place that speaks English. I wonder if the gibberish people face any discrimination. This just confuses me. Anyway, Vengeance Most Foul is a good adventure. It's entertaining. Here is how I rank them.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
This film didn't click with me as much as it did critically everywhere else, but I still think the film is good. Not a masterpiece, but it's good. I like Miles. He is a great character, and I like his relationship with his dad and how they explore that in the film. My favorite scene is when his dad is talking to him about his uncle's death. It's a great, emotional scene, and I wish the film had more scenes like this. The Kingpin is the villain, and I honestly kept forgetting he is in the film. I just didn't feel his presence in the story. I do really like his character design though. The animation is incredible. Its influence nowadays is hard to escape with many films inspired by it, but for me, I was craving a lot more emotion out of the film.
I want to like it more than I do, because everything is there. It's just missing something for me, if that makes sense. Still, a good film though.
There are the other nominees. And even though Spider-Verse didn't click with me as much as I wish it did, it deserved the win, because this is such a mediocre batch of nominees. The only other film I thought that came close was Miria, which, as of this video, is currently the only non-Ghibli anime to get nominated. Come on, Academy. Makoto Shinkai's right there. What the fuck are you doing? Nominate him already! I do like the film's central themes about how family can still help you in the past, present, and future. However, the story structure is really repetitive. Every time a problem happens, he goes into the garden and we flashback, or forward to the past or future. He overcomes the problem thanks to the help. Rinse and repeat. It feels like the film is made up of episodic events that are just solved with no real overarching storyline, apart from him learning to accept his sister, you know, like in Song of the Sea. Still a pretty good film, but I wish it was less repetitive. Next, 2 mediocre sequels to 2 great films. The Incredibles 2 disappoints me more though, considering the decade-long wait for it. It's a very by-the-numbers superhero film, which considering how the first one made fun of these tropes, it's sad to see the sequel just use them unironically. Really great action sequences though, but setting it right after the first film was a mistake. Ralph Breaks the Internet has a really good message though, about how your friends have their own lives and dreams and you shouldn't just follow them, but the film is so unfocused. I don't know how we got from them wanting to buy a part for an arcade machine to Ralph nearly wrecking the whole internet because of a virus. What a lame climax too, and also having no villain like Turbo in the first film really hurt it. The other characters from the first film are also barely in it after having such large roles in the first film. It's cool seeing all the Disney princesses together, but it's a pointless scene that didn't add anything. They just make fun of Disney tropes, which in a way is a trope now. I really can't get into Wes Anderson's style of filmmaking. His films just are too artificial to me, and I know that is the point, but I just can't get into his style. His style does work a bit better in animation, but Isle of Dogs still very much has his style all of it. The characters looking awkwardly while talking into a camera, the artificiality of the setting and the deadpan dialogue, it doesn't work for me. I like how the film plays with translation though, and that is a big theme in the film. Isle of Dogs also gained an additional nomination for original score. Here is how I rank them.
Wall-E!
Maybe too low for some people, but listen, I will say the first bit of the film with him on Earth, cleaning up, and then trying to romance Eve is amazing. It's just pure silent cinema, and it is really stunning to watch. Then the film really falls apart when they get into space and we see all the humans. I have never seen a film do such a nosedive in quality for me. While I do find bits of the film funny, I think it becomes repetitive and meanders around as everyone is trying to get the plant from Eve. It would have been cool as well to spend more time with the humans. We only get a bit of it. The scene with them outside of the ship is really romantic though. If it wasn't for the first bit on Earth, this would be way lower, but I can't deny how great the start is. The film is also tied with Beauty and the Beast for most nominations for an animated film, with the film getting 5 additional nominations: score, original song, sound editing and mixing, plus original screenplay. Are the other nominees? Bolt is fun. I like Bolt. It's the Truman Show if Truman was a dog. Surprised I liked it as much as I did. I dig it. Kung Fu Panda is great. Kickstarting DreamWorks' most unlikely film series. Still think the second one is the best one, but the first one is great fun, and there's a lot of heart to the story. The villain is the weakest part of the film though. He isn't particularly memorable or anything. I like how he has a connection to Master Shifu. It's a pretty solid year, and I would still give it to WALL-E, simply because of those first 30 minutes. They're just top tier amazing. Here is how I rank them.
Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo looks gorgeous. Even some 20 years later, it's one of the best looking 3D animated films around. The fully realized world of the ocean is just really spectacular to look at. Even when I first saw this film, back when I was 7 or so, I found Dory really annoying. Still do with her constant talking and messing up. I felt Marlin's frustration. I like the sharks who vow not to eat fish. They're funny, and I like the tank gang. The film is still vastly, consistently entertaining though, which is why I put it above WALL-E, but Dory is annoying. The film also got 3 additional nominations for sound editing, score, and original screenplay. Here are the other nominees. Brother Bear is Disney at their most blandest and forgettable. They sure have a thing for turning people into bears. Remember how Tarzan's soundtrack was great? Let's just get Phil Collins back and do the same. When I heard the title track play in the film, I bursted out laughing because it just felt so out of place. The music he made for this film seems like it's trying to be more epic than it actually is. It worked in Tarzan, not here. The film goes exactly where you think it will. No surprises, it's just very uninspired. The Triplets of Belleville is great. It has such an ugly yet distinctive art style. These character designs just speak for themselves. They are so hideous but so unique. Show don't tell is the key to this film. It hardly has any dialogue, but it's easy to follow and gets so wacky and surreal towards the end. I really just love how out there this film is. Fun and very memorable. Additionally, the film also received an original song nomination, which makes it the only non-American animated film to get in another category. I don't mind that Finding Nemo won, but I would have given it to Triplets. Here is how I rank them.
Toy Story 3.
I love how Pixar evolved the story into what is essentially a prison break film. Lotso is a great villain, and you really feel the tension and dread throughout the film. I love how each character got their moment to shine. You hear that, Toy Story 4? It wasn't just Woody? Bad Toy Story 4, go stand in the corner. The ending, while a bit sappy, I mean, I don't think any 17-year-old would do this, is a great emotionally satisfying conclusion to our time with these characters, ending their chapter with Andy and starting with Bonnie. What a great ending. A fourth one certainly doesn't exist. A really thrilling and emotional film, funny too. Also receiving 4 additional nominations for sound editing, adapted screenplay, and Best Picture, becoming the 3rd animated film to do so. Plus, it won Original Song. Are the other nominees. As great as Toy Story 3 is, I prefer How to Train Your Dragon. I love this film. It's one of my favourite animated films, which dares ask the question, are the dragons we have been fighting for hundreds of years not that bad after all? The film has 2 beating hearts, that of Hiccup's developing relationship with Toothless and his relationship with his father. Seeing these relationships grow really hit me emotionally, particularly when Hiccup and Toothless first gain trust for one another. And I also love how his father does become proud of him, and even says he was wrong in the end. The flying scenes are really spellbinding, and the music elevates all these scenes. It really deserved its additional nomination for original score.
Amazing movie. I loved it.
Next is the follow-up film to The Triplets of Belleville, The Illusionist. Compared to Triplets, he goes for a more realistic and less surreal art style. I do prefer Triplets' art style because it gives it more of an identity, but The Illusionist is fine. Hardly has any dialogue in it as well, so it is very accessible. The relationship between the illusionist and the Scottish girl in the film doesn't feel very developed though. It's very odd she just left everything to go with him, and he was okay with this when he saw she had just gate crashed him. The end of the film is just very unsatisfying to me. The film just left me feeling nothing. Here's how I rank them.
The Boy and the Heron.
This might rise up the list with rewatches, or who knows, maybe it'll go down. But this film does give me a lot to think about.
Clearly, it is steeped in metaphor and greatly inspired by Miyazaki's childhood. The film is framed as being set during and after the war, which doesn't really play into film that much, seeing as a good portion of it is set in this fantasy world. There's lots of ways to interpret the film, and I'm still wrapping my head around it, but I see the film as Mahito using this fantasy world to cope with his mother's death, and to move past it. This heron is what guides him there, with this really odd and weird design. I love the creativity. These parakeets are just so creepy and cute. Look how they hold their weapons. Ah. The music is really outstanding. Frankly, I think it should have got a nomination. It's really impactful in the film, really creative transitions and visuals. It's a real feast for the eyes. I believe the film will grow on me over time as I understand the story better, so this seems like the right place. I do prefer The Wind Rises currently, but this is a nice swan song for Miyazaki's long career, and a very inspired win from the Academy. Here are the other nominees, and as someone who did not think highly of Into the Spider-Verse, I adored Across the Spider-Verse. Like, wow, this is what I wanted the first one to be like. Remember I said I wanted more scenes like Miles' father and him talking through the door? Well, we get so many scenes like that here. Emotional conversations and the stunning way they show it. Like, man, they really outdid themselves with the animation here. It's one of the best looking animated films I've ever seen. I love how they made Gwen a co-lead, us learning more about her, the drama between her and her father is really powerful. I love all their scenes together. Yes, it ends on a cliffhanger, so it is not a complete story, but if they keep it up, this will be an amazing trilogy of films based on the strength of this film. I do hope that nothing happens that will mess this up. Stunning, emotional, funny, it has it all, and I am happy Boy and the Heron won, but I would have given it to Across the Spider-Verse. Nimona dares ask the question, what if that demon who lives among us isn't so bad after all? The film is good. I love this medieval futuristic setting. It's really cool and creative. The lack of detail on everyone is noticeable. There's no texture in their clothes and stuff, but that is the style of animation. It works. I think the film was entirely built around this one image at the end though, which is a powerful visual, and it works getting us there. Elemental was a sleeper hit from Pixar. I thought the romance was very believable, and they had great chemistry together. I found the film very relatable, mainly because I am actually in an interracial relationship, and some of the cultural differences and misunderstandings they have I saw reflected in my relationship. In fact, one of the inspirations for the film was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and it does show. The film's romance is sort of a typical Romeo and Juliet bit, two people, elements, who are on opposite sides and fall in love despite their differences and situation. Then you have these really dumb reviews about the film calling it woke. God, I fucking hate that word. These idiots don't know what they are talking about. They'd call Guess Who's Coming to Dinner woke if it came out today. It's all the same. Elemental is great. One of Pixar's better films, I thought. Robot Dreams, I could not stop thinking about after I saw it. It just burns itself into your brain, and it's such a tragic yet poignant film, told with no dialogue. The friendship between dog and robot is just so pure, which makes what happens to both of them just hard to accept, but that is the reality. I did find the dream sequences quite repetitive, but I understand their purpose in the film. The journey I went on with Dog and Robot is something I'll always remember, and I'll never hear the song September the same way again. Here is how I rank them.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
A passion project of Del Toro's that took 15 years to complete.
This is one of the best adaptations of Pinocchio there is. It doesn't shy away from the story matter or the darkness of the story, and it tells it very, very maturely.
And you can just tell the love he had for this film. This has also got to be the most realistic reaction to seeing Pinocchio in anything. I love how Geppetto creates him out of this drunken grief. It's really sad, but Pinocchio's cheerful optimism in the face of all this grief and darkness in the film really makes the film enjoyable and hopeful. The ending is beautiful. It's so sad and just perfect, giving me a sense of sadness yet satisfaction that Pinocchio will continue spreading his happiness. Great film, if a bit slow at times. Here are the other nominees. And with as great as Pinocchio is, I'm glad it won. I would have given it to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Nothing against Pinocchio, of course.
This is brilliant, but I like this.
The Last Wish is amazing, really unexpected too, coming off a very mediocre first film. It reverts back to the subversiveness of the Shrek films with the dark humor and subverting tropes of the genre. We have 3 great villains in Goldilocks, who's sympathetic, Big Jack Horner, who is just an irredeemable nutcase. He is hilarious though, in his outright cruelty and indifference to everyone. Then of course, Death, the force of nature just doing his job. With as little screen time as he has, you feel his presence throughout the film. His appearances are really chilling, and the film does go full on dark with its questions about morality when death is staring at you. As much as I find annoying sidekicks annoying, which you've probably noticed by now, the dog Burrito is a breath of fresh air because he seems like a subversion of the trope. He has a really tragic story, but he is so happy and optimistic that he is unaware of how bad it is, and I like as well how he is really needed in the plot. He isn't just thrown in there to be comic relief. The film wouldn't work without him. Unlike a few others I can think of, amazing film. The Sea Beast dares ask the question, are the sea beasts we have been fighting for thousands of years not so bad after all? This film is so derivative of How to Train Your Dragon, it's really hard not to make the comparison. Just replace dragons with sea beasts and you have this film, but a far lesser version. Lacks the heart of How to Train Your Dragon because the sea beast we are meant to care about just has no personality, unlike Toothless. I didn't feel like he had a bond with the girl Maisie in the film, since it's more about her bond with Jacob and trying to convince him otherwise. At the end as well, when he tells everyone that, oh, the sea beasts are actually nice, and the Crown has been using propaganda to tell us otherwise, they all just accept it really quickly. Come on, in How to Train Your Dragon it took them a while to accept it. The film is entertaining, but it's just a lesser How to Train Your Dragon. Very predictable and just lacks everything that makes that film great. Turning Red is good. Captures the awkwardness of teenagers well, which is why a lot of the humor is cringy, because teenagers are cringy. I remember seeing criticism about how the mum is overbearing and unrealistic. I just have to say no. This is very realistic.
I used to be an English teacher in China, and I saw parents like this. Probably even worse.
The depiction is very well done, and director Domi Shi says it is based on her growing up, so yeah, I believe it. I also really liked how the bully in the film, Tyler, becomes friends with them by the end because they like the same boy band. I thought that was very sweet. I did think the 9/11 references were very out of place though. Finally, Marcel, the shell with shoes on.
Honestly, this is probably bottom of the list in terms of nominees for me. Because the bad nominees I've seen so far have at least been entertaining, but this film, it bored the shit out of me.
What should have been like a 30-minute story is stretched out to an hour and a half. It just meanders and is so uninteresting. Marcel the show is so fucking annoying. Hearing him talk and yatter on throughout the whole film just made me want someone to step on him already. Just shut up, please. I'm also questioning how this film was even eligible for this nomination, because so much of it is in live action. WALL-E and Happy Feet did have live action segments, but they were probably less than 5% of the film. But this, a lot of it is live action, seemed to barely have any animation, but apparently it was eligible because they proved 70% of it was animated. But hell, what do I know then, I guess? Here is how I rank them.
Soul.
Soul is one of Pixar's most profound films, a film that feels like it's really not aimed at kids, more so young adults. Soul just asks the question, what is my purpose in life? Also, teaching there's more to life than just your dream. Stop and smell the roses, if you will. I love the quiet scenes of tranquility in the film, the images and sounds of ambience. It reminds me of a Yajiro Ozu film, with its quiet reflection on life. I love Ozu, so Pixar unintentionally making a Yajiro Ozu film is right up my alley. I would like to address some controversy around the film in regards to its lead, Joe. So this is Pixar's first black lead, which was made a big deal of. I found that the film is nowhere near about race at all. Joe's race doesn't really play a factor into anything, besides some scenes that focus on the African American community. Joel could just be anyone, and that's the point. The film is about the human experience, which anyone can relate to. I want to highlight this review from when the film came out by Kristen Acuna of Business Insider. She writes, in its final moments, Soul is set to sacrifice its black lead so a white woman can go and live out her life on Earth. About the scene where 22 lands in Joe's human body while he is a cat, she writes, yep, a white woman is put in a black man's body, and Who thought it was a good idea to put a white woman in the body of a black man? And not just any woman, but Faye, who earlier this year requested that episodes of her show 30 Rock be pulled from streaming services because of blackface. She asks, why does a dying black man have to help a white woman live?
Sorry, Kristen, but what the fuck are you talking about? 22 is a genderless, raceless soul.
22 even says to Joe in the film that they picked this voice because it annoys people, and that's 22's goal.
By the way, why do you sound like a middle-aged white lady?
I don't. This is all an illusion.
Huh?
I just use this voice because it annoys people.
It's very effective.
Yes, Tina Fey, who plays 22, is a white woman, but that doesn't make 22 a white woman. I guess Samurai Jack is a black man then, since his voice actor, Phil Lambert, is.
I was just wondering if you would be so kind as to join us, as we are...
Talking demon dogs.
Good heavens, where?
A bit of a tangent, I know, but I just wanted to say that because Soul is not about race, but a lot of these critics made it about race since the lead is black. Regardless, this is one of Pixar's best films. It's really emotionally profound. Additionally, the film's score won an Oscar, becoming Pixar's second film to do so, and was also nominated for Best Sound. Here are the other nominees. And while Soul deserved the win, Wolfwalkers is a very close second. The final film in the Irish folklore trilogy, and by far the best one. The narrative in this film is so tightly focused, unlike the other two films, and it is really thrilling. The running with the wolves segment is so beautiful. The animation in general is really stunning to watch. It's really sweet seeing Robin and Meb's relationship grow during the course of the film, and they have great chemistry together. I love this film. It's stunning. Pixar's other film nominated, Onward, is good. I really like the premise, the world it's set in, and honestly, the ending got me teary-eyed. I will give it that, but compared to Pixar's other work, it just feels like there is something missing in it. Maybe because the plot meanders around, and Barley is quite annoying, but it's good. Over the Moon I did not expect to be a musical going in, so that surprised me. The songs are very forgettable though, besides Ultra Luminary. That song's a banger. This film doesn't work for me. For starters, the moon goddess, Shang-Yi, is very unlikable. She comes across as very arrogant and full of herself, like a villain. But the film doesn't want you to see her as a villain, even though she's not letting them go and has given them a seemingly impossible quest. Not once by Fei-Fei is she called out on her shitty behaviour, and Fei-Fei just goes along with it. The gist of the film as well is that Fei-Fei is trying to come to terms with her father getting remarried and moving on from her mum, who passed away. You know, that's a great concept, because I'm sure many people can relate to this, but the way it gets there, and she comes to terms with it, doesn't feel right. For starters, we are meant to see Fei-Fei and Chin bonding, since Fei-Fei doesn't like him, so why do both of them spend most of the film separated? It's just not believable that she would grow to like him when they barely interact with each other once they get to the moon. It's Shang-Yi who talks to her in the end, which makes her realize this. But it's just a complete 180 from Shang-Yi's character of what we have seen in the film. This arrogant, self-centered goddess is now like this in a flash. It's so rushed and doesn't feel earned. Great concept, but it just doesn't work. Then Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon is just very forgettable. It's not as funny as the first film, and for as grounded as the first film is, I'm not a fan of the sci-fi direction they took with this film. Also, what happened to the other characters? We are just focusing on this alien and these men in black-like people. Shaun's supporting cast, his family, the farmer, and the dog had huge roles in the first film, and here they are barely in it. Not a fan. Here's how I rank them.
Inside Out!
One of Pixar's most emotionally resonating films about the importance of sadness, being in tune with your emotions, just be honest with yourself, a message everyone needs to hear.
I honestly don't have any criticism of this film. I think it's near perfection.
It's really creative. I love how they portray emotions in your head, your personality islands, dreams, and the film is hilarious. But it's the emotional beats that hit the hardest. Inside Out also received an additional nomination for original screenplay, and as of this video, remains the last animated film to get in screenplay. Here are the other nominees. Similar to 2011's nominees, it is a very varied lot. Anomalisa made history being the first R-rated film nominated, though I think Chico and Rita and possibly I Lost My Body would have got R's if they were rated. Anomalisa really burns itself into your mind. After watching it, I really couldn't get it out of my head. I would really describe this film as an existential horror film. Michael basically sees everyone as an NPC. Same face, same voice, and he really can't get over it. The film does feature one of the most realistic sex scenes I have ever seen in a film. Yes, from a stop-motion film. Really great film. Once you see it, it's stuck in your head, rent-free, forever. When Marnie was there is great as well. Seeing the relationship develop between Anna and Marnie is a joy to watch. As I was watching it, I did think that Anna was getting feelings for Marnie, and looking online, it looks like I'm not the only one. This is why I said Luca reminded me of a small-scale Ghibli film, and this is the film I was reminded of. It is very predictable though. I did call the ending while watching it, but regardless of that, it's a very satisfyingly emotional ride. Shaun the Sheep the movie has got to be one of the biggest surprises for me when I started watching all the nominees. A spin-off of Wallace and Gromit. I wasn't expecting much, but I got a really funny and surprisingly heartfelt film. There is no dialogue in this film, so the humor is visual based, and boy does it land. This is one of the funniest films nominated. Every joke really hits. I loved seeing Shaun and his family going on this adventure. They are all very likable, and the lengths they go to is fantastic. It's why I found the second one so disappointing and forgettable. The first one had such a high standard. Boy and the World is very meh, it just didn't engage me. Also another film with no dialogue and really beautiful animation, but the narrative just isn't there. I was quite confused while watching the film about what it all means. The film also seems to get political during the end, and I feel like I am missing historical context in regards to Brazil, which the film doesn't explain, it just expects you to know.
Please explain to me if you know.
I really want to like the film, but I found it to be very confusing. Here is how I rank them. It's overly a really strong year.
Viva Latinoamérica, Coco!
Coco is amazing. It is easily one of Pixar's best films. Man, that ending made me cry so much. Miguel is a great protagonist, his conflict in the film is very justified, and seeing the land of the dead through his eyes helps ease us into the world. It has one of the best villains Pixar has ever written, it makes perfect sense it would be him. The way the film uses the song Remember Me is one of the best uses of a song I've ever seen. The meaning of the song changes and evolves throughout the film depending on who is singing it, and the ending is the perfect way to bookend the film with this song. Really stunningly emotional film. I love it. The aforementioned song Remember Me also won the Oscar for Original Song. Here are the other nominees. Why was Boss Baby nominated? Really? There was no other animated film submitted you could have nominated? Lego Batman? In This Corner of the World? Bird Boy? The film is very mediocre, is nothing special and has really cringy humor. Just forget about it. Ferdinand is pretty good. I was surprised I enjoyed it to the extent I did. Kate McKinnon's goat is really annoying though. Her and annoying Aquafina dragon should team up. Any film that uses Pitbull's songs in the soundtrack get a thumb up from me though.
My bad!
The Breadwinner is the only film Cartoon Salon has made not set in Ireland, instead being set in Afghanistan under Taliban rule. Havana uses stories as a way of escaping the situation there, which becomes more dire as the film progresses. It's really good. Hard to watch at times, and I did find the constant interruptions with the story Pavana keeps telling to affect the pacing of the film, but it is a really good watch. Loving Vincent had an interesting production cycle, with the actors being filmed on green screen, and then over the course of 6 years the film was painstakingly painted, frame by frame, in the style of Vincent van Gogh. A very slow and long process. So after all that work, how is the film?
Meh.
The film is just not fun to watch, and even by the time it was over, I was still not used to this animation style. I admire it, all the work that went into making this film, but the painting style is really distracting. You'll notice frame by frame how the brush strokes change, and also all the clutter on screen with the establishing shots. It's very distracting. But the story of the film just isn't interesting. If you know about the mystery and theories as to Vincent van Gogh's death, then this film isn't going to offer anything new. Also, for a film that is supposedly a love letter to Vincent van Gogh, it's more obsessed with his death than his life. You really don't get a sense of what the man was like, and he's a really fascinating person, but the film just doesn't give you anything about him personally. Sure, look, they recreate some of his iconic paintings. You can be like, oh, there it is. But what does it add? It's one of the most unique animated films nominated, since it is animated only by paintings, but that's it. I admire it, but I don't like it. Here's how I rank them.
Up.
So I have seen criticism of this film that it is only the first 10 minutes worth watching due to that montage of Carl and Ellie's life together, which, yes, is beautifully heartbreaking, but I think the film is consistently great throughout. Unlike with WALL-E, which I think falls apart when they go to space, I think the film just gets funnier with all the new characters they introduce, like Doug. I love Doug.
Beak!
Hi there. Talking demon dogs.
Kevin the bird has so much personality. I love watching his silent antics, but Carl is one of Pixar's best protagonists. His look is based on Spencer Tracy and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. They sure love that film at Pixar, don't they? I love how this and Russell's relationship develops over the film, and he changes his grumpy ways and starts befriending him. I love the scene when he first puts balloons on his house and flies away. The music, the imagery is all so stunning. Great villain too, and I love his army of dogs. The film really balances the drama, the intrigue, and the comedy very well. It's one of Pixar's funniest films, honestly, and also one of their most emotional. Also nominated for an additional 4 Oscars, including Best Sound Editing, Original Screenplay, Original Score, which it won, and Best Picture, becoming the first animated film since Beauty and the Beast to get nominated. Here are the other nominees. We have Disney's first 2D animated film in over a decade with The Princess and the Frog, which is really good. Have a great villain and very memorable songs. Tiana is a great and really inspirational protagonist. She's very proactive and hardworking. Really good. And it also got 2 additional nominations for Original Song. Also, 3 nominations with no wins. This makes the film, along with Flea and The Wild Robot, the most nominated film to lose animated feature.
Coraline is really fucked up.
How did Laika get away with this? It's a full-on horror film aimed at kids. I mean, even Paranorman, as horror-filled as that was, had comedy in it to lighten the mood. This doesn't. Wow, the imagery and character designs are just so haunting. So is the storyline. This place just keeps getting more and more unsettling as the film goes on.
If I saw this when I was a kid, it would probably give me nightmares. But hey, it's not a bad thing to scare kids, is it?
Fantastic film. Everyone should watch this. The other stop-motion animated film nominated was Fantastic Mr. Fox. While this film is better than Isle of Dogs, it is still very Wes Anderson, and again, I just can't get into his style. While the film isn't as in-your-face as his more recent works, it still has that awkward deadpan humor and the blatant artificiality of the world. I like the story better, and Mr. Fox is charming, mainly because it's George Clooney. But yeah, not really my style. Still can't get into it. Like Isle of Dogs, the film also gained an additional nomination for original score. The Secret of Kells is the first film in the Irish folklore trilogy, which, along with How to Train Your Dragon, are the only trilogies to have all their entries nominated. I couldn't get into this film that much, mainly because it was so unfocused and the film sort of just meandered, and by the end I thought, what was the point of all this? It was cool when the Vikings showed up. It was cool how they depicted them as faceless monsters, but overall, really couldn't get into it. Here is how I rank them.
Shrek!
The first winner in this category, which is also one of the best. Shrek has aged like fine wine. A subversion of Disney tropes and fairy tales which is still culturally relevant today, probably thanks to the internet ruining Shrek. But everything in the film works. Shrek is a great hero. Donkey, while an annoying talking animal, doesn't annoy me that much. I think it's because he is self-aware, and he is hilarious. Him and Shrek are a great unlikely duo. I always felt really sorry for the bird in this scene, but this speaks to the dark humor in the film. The soundtrack is awesome, it elevates so many of the scenes, and the songs in Shrek are so engraved into the DNA of the film that I associate all the songs with this film whenever I hear them. Shrek is a timeless classic. It's influenced countless animated films with its pop culture references, cynical humor, and ending films with a song and dance sequence. The film also gained an additional nomination for adapted screenplay, which, as of this video, is the only non-Pixar film to gain a screenplay nomination. Here are the other nominees. Of course, we have Pixar's Monsters, Inc., which is also a timeless classic. Like Shrek, I watched this so much when I was a kid. I loved it. Love all the characters, love the story. It's a great idea, so kids won't be frightened of the monsters in the closet now. I did always feel sorry for the abominable snowman, because he got sully snow cones and he just left. Rude. The film also got 3 additional nominations for score, sound editing, and winning original song, which makes Monsters Inc. the only animated film to lose this category but win in another. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius is good, it's a fun adventure, the aliens making the parents do the chicken dance was funny, and I always thought it didn't make any sense why they could just breathe in space. Why no helmets? Even as a kid that bothered me. The sequence where they all blast off is cool though. Here is how I rank them.
The Incredibles!
Like Shrek, The Incredibles has aged like fine wine. And with the dominance of the superhero genre over the past decade, The Incredibles still remains as one of the best superhero films ever made, mainly because it parodies and commentates on the genre itself. The film is really about a midlife crisis that Bob Parr is having, missing those glory days, and just feels like his life is going nowhere. I love how he works an office job for a company that doesn't help people, completely against who he is. Syndrome, or Buddy, I guess, is such a great villain. I love how much fun he is having, and even in this age he's still very much is fanboying over superheroes. I love how giddy he gets, especially in this scene where he interrogates Mr. Incredible about who he contacted, but he also commits superhero genocide in a really dark reveal of his plan. I do love that hidden darkness in the story of this film, but at the end of the day, the film is about the family unit coming together and kicking ass. I love this film. I have seen it so many times. It is an utter masterpiece. The film also picked an additional nomination for sound mixing and original screenplay, while also winning an additional Oscar for sound editing. This makes The Incredibles the only animated film to win outside of the music category.
Frankly, I do think the score deserved a nomination.
Here are the other nominees, and we have 2 DreamWorks films. Shrek 2 is one of the greatest sequels of all time. If the first one is The Godfather, then this is The Godfather Part 2. It just builds on the foundation of the first one with more world building, more characters, and that same cynical, subversive humor that we love. The fairy godmother is one of cinema's best villains. The climax where she sings "I Need a Hero" while Shrek and gang are trying to save Fiona is just mwah, perfect. So well edited and so well paced. The film also gained an additional nomination for Original Song. Now we have a huge downgrade with Shark Tale. Really? Nothing else? You could have nominated? How about the SpongeBob movie? That would have been great, and it's set underwater as well. So Shark Tale is kind of frustrating because Oscar tells this lie and you're just waiting throughout the whole film for his lie to be exposed. It's an annoying plot line, and Oscar is just not likable at all. He ignores Gwenaelle Zellweger fish and even gambles away the money she let him, then lies to everyone about killing a shark. Great. This is our hero. The uncanny nature as well of having Will Smith's face on Oscar, it's just strange and uncanny. So generic story, unlikable characters. What more do you need? How about ending on a dance number? Man, the Shrek influence is here as well. But Shark Tale does have one thing that no other film on this list has. And that's Martin Scorsese.
So clearly the film is actually amazing because Marty decided to bless it with his presence.
Just as he once said, superhero films are trash, but Shark Tale is cinema. 10 out of 10, top of the list so far.
Yo, 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 yo.
Here is how I rank them.
Ratatouille.
My favorite animated film of all time. I have seen this countless times since it came out. I love Ratatouille so much. The film is about creating art, even though I am not a chef. I see the film as being about art and the artist's process. Remy and all the chefs are artistes, as Colette so beautifully puts it to Linguini. I love how Remy and Linguini's relationship develop, and how they help each other in the process. I also really like Anton Ego as this food critic, who by the end, upon eating Remy's food, is transported back to his childhood. That is beautiful, and something I also feel with this film, being transported back to my childhood, with the wonder that Remy has for the world. I love the ending, though I am not sure how they keep the rats a secret in that restaurant, but anyway, don't think about it, it's a bittersweet ending. I love this movie. Even the crazy lady who destroys her house just to kill a rat, what a psycho. Also nominated for an additional 4 Oscars, sound editing and mixing, original score, and original screenplay. Here are the other nominees. Surf's Up is fun. The best animated mockumentary I have seen. It's very laid back and just a fun time. Is the best of the Penguin films that have been nominated sure for that? Yes, looking at you, Happy Feet. Pizzopolis is great. Very hard-hitting in a number of scenes. I love its art style of a mix of black and white and color animation, autobiographical from director Marjane Satrapi. Perspective about her life in Iran and how it ends with her escaping to France. I loved watching her journey in the film and how opinionated she was against fighting the oppression of the Iranian government. Unsurprisingly, the film is banned in Iran. Great film. I highly recommend it. Here is how I rank them.
Spirited Away.
Of course this was going to be number 1. The Ratatouille is my favourite. There is just something so special and unique about Spirited Away. The film is an original feast for the senses and eyes. We are on this journey with Chihiro and learn as she does. It's why Sophie in Howl's Moving Castle doesn't work, because she lives and knows this world, which is why that film is so perplexing and random to viewers. In Spirited Away, we know as much as Chihiro and can easily follow along with her. She does a lot of growing up as she comes across these very unique characters. Remember how at the start of the film the tunnel is all clean and bare, but when she comes back it's all overgrown with grass and stuff? Well, that's because she has gone through puberty and is now a woman. That is what my film lecturer at uni said, and I will never forget that. In short, I believe Spirited Away is a film that everyone needs to watch, animation lover or not. It's a special film, and you should watch it at least once in your life.
If you ever lose hope in cinema, just watch this and know it is very much alive.
Here are the other nominees, and we're ending on a very, very strong lineup. The weakest one here is Ice Age, the only film from this franchise to get nominated. But the film is good, if a tad bit predictable, but it does tug on the heartstrings. When the son is finally reunited with his dad, it's very sweet. Manny and Sid's dynamic does remind me of Shrek and Donkeys though, even though both films were in develop at the same time, but it's hard not to think of them. I really liked the Dodo sequence, it was funny. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, currently stands as the only 2D animated DreamWorks film to get nominated. This film was also a huge surprise for me. It's great. The animals don't talk in the film, but they have human emotions, they just neigh, and you know exactly how they are feeling. All in the body language and how expressive the animation is. My one gripe with the film is that every now and again Matt Damon will butt in and narrate what's going on and how Spirit is feeling, since he is meant to be Spirit and it's completely unnecessary. They shouldn't have included it because the animation is so expressive that it is so easy to understand how he is feeling and what's going on. It's a great adventure and really makes me wish that DreamWorks would do more daring films like this. Lastly are the 2 Disney films nominated. Lilo and Stitch is one of my favourite films as well. Their friendship together is so endearing, but also Lilo's with Nami. They have a complete sister relationship, and I love how Nami is doing everything she can to keep Lilo with her. They argue like siblings, but at the end of the day, they are Ohana. The film is about family, which Vin Diesel would be proud of. I love the sequence when they are surfing. It's so cool. The ending as well. Very heartfelt. Treasure Planet, it's Treasure Island, only it's set in that one place that is not corrupted by capitalism.
Space!
I love the creativity of the space setting in the film. Seeing all the different species of aliens and humans together makes the universe of the film feel very lived in. The complex relationship between John Silver and Jim Hawkins gives the film an emotional core to it. I love seeing how conflicted Silver is with his mission and how he feels about Jim. Really exciting and stunning action sequences too. This is what you expect from the most expensive 2D animated film of all time. Great film, and almost forgotten gem from Disney. Here is how I rank them, ending things strong on a very great year.
Now, let's rank the nominees.
Marcel, The Shell with Shoes On, The Boss Baby, Shark Tale, Brother Bear, Raya and the Last Dragon, Loving Vincent, Chico and Rita, Isle of Dogs, Incredibles 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists, A Shaun the Sheep Movie, Farmageddon, Boy and the World, Puss in Boots, Paranorman, The Secret of Kells, Howl's Moving Castle, Over the Moon, The Sea Beast, Missing Link, Despicable Me 2, The Illusionist, Song of the Sea, Ferdinand, Corpse Bride, Fantastic Mr. Fox, A Cat in Paris, Cars, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, Ice Age, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, Turning Red, Onward, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Nimona, Miria, Bolt, Monster House, The Box Trolls, The Croods, Surf's Up, Elemental, Kung Fu Panda, Frankenweenie, Ernest and Celestine, Klaus, The Princess and the Frog, Inside Out 2, Treasure Planet, The Breadwinner, Wreck-It Ralph, When Marnie Was There, Luca, Anomalisa, Kung Fu Panda 2, The Wild Robot, Flea, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, Memoir of a Snail, Robot Dreams, The Wind Rises, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Coraline, The Triplets of Belle-Evelle, Herzopolis, Shaun the Sheep Movie, Kubo and the Two Strings, Monsters Inc., Moana, Shrek 2, Wolfwalkers, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, Lilo and Stitch, I Lost My Body, The Red Turtle, How to Train Your Dragon, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, My Life as a Courgette, Spider-Man, Across the Spider-Verse. Wow, I guess Martin Scorsese was wrong after all.
Yo.
My biggest takeaway from watching all these nominees and going on this journey is, man, European animation, particularly French, is great.
They seem to have the same mindset as Japan for animation in that it's for everyone. With a great mix of adult and family animation nominated from Europe, it's something I wish American animation would embrace more. With the recent win of Flow though, it does look like that the tide is shifting. I do look forward to what this category will nominate in the future, and I do have to commend the Oscars for a number of the films nominated, since they are very inspired choices, even if I didn't like some of them that much. But the fact they did give them recognition is a win for the filmmakers and international animation.
Bottom line, watch more European animation. You can start with Bird Boy. Thank you for watching.